It's preparing to go live, so we should be good.
Do you want me to put okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we want to mute that. Can you hear me, Myron?
Yeah. Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. So you can hear me, that's good. And it says we're live on YouTube, so that's all good. So there we go. So I'm going to pull up the video. I'll do the disclaimer, the intro, and then we'll get started and we'll do your tea time, and I can edit all of this stuff after.
Right.
So we are live right now. So let me get the video up and then we'll start your tea time and we'll have some tea together. And
Come over here, have a moment with me. My name is Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditzies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
well, welcome guys. Miss Liz is in the house, and we do have a new streaming way of doing tea time today. So you'll see that we are on Zoom and not on StreamYard. So we have the incredible Myron Edwards in the house, and we're gonna spill a tea. And his tea is never give up. That's right. Just keep it simple, right? We have a different type of tea. So let's get the disclaimer out there. An intro. As you can see, Myron is on the screen already, and we're gonna start spilling tea right after we're done all that. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using Zoom today. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant Zoom permission to display your name at zoom.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of this discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com, or check my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate and comment on or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Now let me give you a little bit on Myron. Today I'm honored to share space with Myron Edwards, author, screenwriter, and myth creator. Myron's journey began with comedy, but life had other scripts for him to write. One filled with mystery, mythology, and meaning. From the laughter of his early careers to the ancient whispers of Greece, Myron found his voice in storytelling that transcends time. His books remind us that behind every legend lies a very human truth, the courage to rise, to imagine, and to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. Let me welcome Myron Edwards to the table and spill some tea with us together today. Myron, welcome to Tea Time.
Thank you. It's a wonderful introduction. And I'm calling you from the island of love. So I'm sending you lots of love from here in Cyprus.
Well, I appreciate, see, I get to travel in my little good old rocking chair, but today you don't get to see the rocking chair, you get to see the green screen. So we're doing a lot of magical mystery stuff on Tea Time today. Myron, you gave me for your tea, Never Give Up. Let's get into that tea and then let's get into your books and all the other good stuff.
Okay. Well, never give up is basically the way that I work, in as much as I try everything possible to try and make a success of whatever I do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So, from that perspective, I've had some really good opportunities in life and I've taken them. Sometimes it was the right decision, sometimes it's the wrong decision. But you only do that through experience, and I've experienced a lot now. And I've been in various careers in my life. I've spent 30 years in the travel business, working from when I was 16 years of age as a young junior, working right through to when I started to run airlines in Africa. So yeah, I've done a fair amount of variation, and of course I've done a lot of writing, and the writing came through purely by chance. When I was first of all involved in writing, before that, I was a drummer in a band, and the guy that I worked with, a chap called Phil Campbell, on the writing, was the lead singer in the band. So if anybody wants to listen to us, we're called Frothy Coffee, and they're available on Facebook. So there's a quick ad for you. And then basically what happened was we'd done about 4 years. We'd done professional tours and things in Germany, and we decided to go our separate ways. We weren't getting too many record contracts, so from that perspective, we decided to go different ways. And purely by chance, and I do mean purely by chance, we were asked to write some scripts for a hospital radio show, which they could play to the patients. So they will listen to the scripts that we wrote, and we were left with a lot of material. So Phil decided that he'd send it to the BBC just to see if they were interested in it. And as luck happens, we were picked up by the BBC for what was probably then the biggest TV show on at Christmas, which was the Two Ronnies, and they are the premium dual comedy duo. And to be honest, we were absolutely knocked out from that point of view. So we got on to the Two Ronnies, and from there we decided, okay, let's try some other things. So we were lucky enough to do some radio shows with Roy Hudd. I did Weekendings, which was a satirical show. And if it's funny, you'll see now the people that I worked with are now very famous. They became very famous. People like Rowan Atkinson, the great writer Douglas Adams, who actually unfortunately passed away at a very young age, but he wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And people like Griff Rhys-Jones, who was a producer on Weekendings, and John Lloyd, who actually went on to do Blackadder. He worked on Headlines, and he's now on QI. So yeah, I was in and around the right area at that time. I would have liked to have stayed in the B, but being married and mortgaged and everything else, it was a big problem. If you were on the periphery, you're not going to get salaried. You're only get paid on what you actually produce. So that, in many ways, was a big problem. So it wasn't enough to pay the mortgage. So we had to do it on a freelance basis. So we were working on a freelance basis, and we also had to have our own jobs as well. So I went back into the travel industry, and I worked for an advertising agency as their travel manager. And at the time, I didn't realize how big they were, but it was JWT Thompson, John Walter Thompson, and they at well, I mean, the name speaks for itself, but they basically were the biggest advertising agency on the planet at that time, and they had some amazing creative people and the programs that they did. Also, they had some fantastic opportunities for junior people, and one of the ways in which you could actually become a copywriter, because somebody suggested to me, well, if you're writing for the BBC, why don't you try copywriting? So I said, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. What do you have to do? He said, well, to be honest, you've got to pass the copy test to even get considered. And the copy test is basically 10 quick questions that you have to be as creative as possible to answer. I'd give you one example of what the questions were. And this is question one was dead simple, but question two is very difficult. You have to write a radio commercial for 30 seconds using no words and no music. So you can only use sounds, but what you have to use as sounds has to be absolutely recognizable. And if you get through that, then you move on to the next three questions, four questions, up until you finish the test itself. And I passed. I was the first one in 3 years that passed the copy test. So they transferred me up from the first floor to the third floor. And in 10 days, I wrote my first commercial for dog food, believe it or not. And we used helicopters and God knows what else. It was fantastic, amazing. And I really loved what we were doing. But unfortunately, this is what I was meaning before. You've got to be at the right time in the right place. I joined at the time when the first advertising strike in history, and it hasn't happened since, happened, which meant all the commercials on TV were taken off. There were no television programs on which had commercials. So all that we had to do was use press and posters and things like that, and of course radio. So that was how we all got into a situation where about a year later we were all fired because there was no money coming in, whereas there should have been millions and millions from the TV advertising, which is what it usually was. We all got moved out. And then, of course, I was in a dilemma. What do I do? Do I stick in advertising, or what do I do? Do I go back into the travel business? So I went back into the travel business. I found a job working for a merchant bank in the city as their travel manager, which was very good, and I enjoyed that. But I still had the nurturing the idea of when can I do some creative stuff. I kept doing a bit of writing. I wrote for a Scottish TV, and they picked up one of the sketches that I did, and it was produced by Tracy Ullman, who went on to become a superstar. And the first program, I don't know if anybody knows this, but the first program that The Simpsons appeared on was the Tracy Ullman Show in America. So that they were on there for about 5 minutes, just a 5-minute cartoon, I think it was, and it was Tracy Ullman that introduced them. So yeah, it's funny how things come about from that point. From there, I stayed in the advertising business. Sorry, the travel business, and then we were in a bit of a dilemma. I married a second time. Had been divorced. Married a second time. My lady is a Greek Cypriot, hence that's why I'm in Cyprus. but she's English Greek Cypriot. So her family is Cypriot. They come from the mountain area in Cyprus. They moved over in the 50s. They used to call it the Charlies. They were the people who came from Cyprus to England to start, a new life in England from that point. Nikki was born in England and she was also brought up in Aldershot. So, but now this is the ironic thing. Nikki joined my travel agency when I was working in Chinatown, and we hated each other. Basically, we couldn't get on at all. We just she became I became European manager for the travel business after about 5 years. I'd been manager, and she became the travel manager, and we just I would go back into her office and she'd say, "Go away! You're not even supposed to be here. Leave me alone. I run this office." So I thought, yeah, okay, fine. That side of things. And to put a finer point on it, I found an idea came out of nothing, and I decided that this idea had merit, and it was called tube walking, and it basically came about because one night I was stuck at Tottenham Court Road, and I was living in Essex. I was stuck in Tottenham Court Road. There were no buses, no underground, nothing. So I decided to walk, but I took shortcuts. And the way that I took shortcuts got me to Liverpool Street where I needed to be in about 20 minutes, which wasn't too far off from what the tube would have taken. So I realized that if I put that together, maybe there are other ways, there are other routes and things. So purely by chance, the next night I was getting in a taxi and I met a guy called Jim, and I said to him, "Well, what's the idea like doing the knowledge?" And he told me, the knowledge is all about taxi driving and everything and knowing all the streets of London. And I said, "Could you do the knowledge as a walk?" And he said, "Yeah, it's easy. It's no problem at all." So I said, "All right, do me 12 routes from mainline stations where I could walk within a distance of, say, 15 minutes." And he said, "Yeah, all right, then I'll do that." Well, I thought I didn't get his number or anything, and I gave him my card. And about a week later, he came back to the office, and he said, "Yeah, there's your routes." And I said, "Blimey, you did that quick." He said, "I had a cold and I couldn't do anything else. So I just sat there and did all your routes for you." So I had a very good art director when I was designing the brochures and everything else for the travel agency. And I said to him, "Look, I got this idea and these are the maps and things like that. Could you design a map based on not the A to Z of London, but simply from one point to another point?" And he said, "Yeah, I could do that." So we started off where basically the central station, mainline station, was in the center of the map. And then from there, you would have the routes going off, and then you'd have next to it the taxi driver's knowledge. So you'd have left, right, forward, forward, left, right, forward, forward with the street names, and that would get you to your destination. So we produced these books and went into London Tourist Board. It went into various places like Foyles and things like that. So it was really good. Do you remember Filofax? I don't know if you remember Filofax. Filofax used to be a yuppie type thing. Basically, what it was like a dictionary. No, I mean, it's not a dictionary. It's like a folder. Like a folder. Let's say it's a folder, and inside you had all these different information sheets which were stuck together, and everybody used to go around with their Filofaxes and their mobile phones and looking very, very posh and all the rest of it. But so we did a version of the maps for Filofax as well. But the big thing was, you know John Michel Jarre, who is very famous for his concerts where he uses light shows and he produces the music and everything. Well, they did a Docklands concert. It was a huge concert. but there was so many different problems they had with this concert. First of all, the council in Docklands wasn't going to allow it, and then they got it through, and finally they had to change the date. Now, Princess Diana actually came to the event as well on the first night, which was pouring with rain, absolutely pouring with rain. Now, the reason I mention that is because I did the maps for people to actually get to the event. So that gave me another string to my bow. So I went around commercially trying to do this. If I had thought about it, I actually went to Virgin. I went to see Branson, but he didn't give me 5 minutes, basically. But if I thought about it, what I should have done, and in hindsight, you think these things through, I should have gone to Apple and put the idea to them so that they could have then produced something like that for their phones. That's what I should have done. Whether they could have done it at that time or not, because you remember we're only 1980, so we're talking 40 years ago, from that perspective. But that's in hindsight, that's what I mean by an opportunity. If you think of an opportunity and then you don't act on it, you lose out. So, from that perspective, that's what I did. Now, eventually, what happened? Nikki and I got married. We decided that we did love each other after all, and etc. etc. So we got married in a Cypriot wedding. It was fantastic. My family are all from Wales, so we had all the Welsh singers and we had the Greek dancers. It was absolutely fabulous. So, many people talk about our wedding as being one of the best weddings they ever went to, which is, great from that point of view. Now, the reason I mentioned that is because while we're out here, our two kids who we had, Alex and Emily, they were in a school in Essex, and they weren't, shall we say, they weren't doing very well, particularly Alex, because I went to see the teacher on one of their presentation nights, and I went in and I said, "Look, I've got Alex's report here, but I'm not very happy with it." And she said, "Well, I'm not his teacher." And I said, "Well, what do you mean you're not his teacher?" "Oh, I'm only a supply teacher." So I said, "Do you know who Alex is?" She said, "No, not really." So I said, "Oh, thank you. That's great." So my kid's being educated by somebody who doesn't know who he is. And from that point of view, you don't know anything about him and his results. So I came out of there, I was fuming. I was basically fuming. And I said to Nikki, "I've had enough. This is ridiculous. These kids are going to grow up as shelf stackers in Tesco's. They're just going to have no future at all." So we decided, that's it. We're lock, stock and barrel. We're selling up. We're going to Cyprus. So that's what we did. And now Nikki's parents mum was already out here, and her sister had been out here with her husband and the three kids that they've got. And they had, it's a different lifestyle, Liz. It's a completely different lifestyle. I had a rush hour where I had to get to Chinatown, and it would take me 2 hours or whatever. I'd have to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get a bloody train. Oh, never mind. All of that's gone now. I'm retired, so I don't care. But you think about work and everything else, and at the end of it, you come to your retirement and you think, was it worth it? And you look at it and you think, I gave all that effort for all those people, and at the end of it, I've come out of it with nothing. No satisfaction as such. Now I can do what I want. Unfortunately, I have dialysis, which means 3 days a week I have to go up to the hospital and have a 4 hour situation where they do dialysis. But it's just something I have to do. If I don't do it, then I'll be dead next week, sort of thing. So from that point of view, life deals cards to you. You either pick them up or you leave them. So from my own perspective, I'm in a fortunate position where I'm on an island, which doesn't give me the stress that I would normally have had if I was living in England, and I wouldn't want to live in England. I've been back a few times, mainly for football matches and things like that, and also to see my relatives in Wales because I haven't seen them for years. But apart from that, I wouldn't want to live there. No.
So
I've been so long, I haven't had a word from you.
Myron, you mentioned Liverpool, correct?
Pardon?
You mentioned Liverpool. Did you stay in the Liverpool area?
No, 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 no. I was in Essex first of all, and then we all moved well. I was in Essex, then I moved to London, in North London, which is like Little Cyprus to a certain extent, the area that we were in, and then we moved over here. So I'm in Limassol in Cyprus. So today it's about 70, 75 degrees. So it's getting colder, but
Yeah.
normally it's usually 30, it's in its 30s, so you get used to it, from that point.
Yeah, because my aunt had married a guy from the UK, and he lived in Liverpool. So when you mentioned Liverpool, and then we have this inside joke because I live in Cornwall, Canada, and he was close to Cornwall, UK. So we have this Cornwall joke where the Cornish jokes come in. Uh, So you remind me a lot of my Uncle Chris as we're sitting and having this conversation. And my uncle's the same way. He would not go back to the UK. He's like, it's nice to visit, but not to stay. Um, so Myron, I want to get into what got you from comedy to mythology, and which one feels more natural to write?
This was the rock. Yeah, purely by chance. Uh,
Oh,
I've told this story so many times. It's almost repetitious. I can't tell you how many times I've told you it. Look,
so it's like a bad cup of tea, right? It just
all
keeps.
right, I'm going to tell you now how it all came about. All right, this is purely coincidence, choice, whatever you want to call it. Um, Nikki and I, when before we were married, we came to Cyprus to meet the family, sort of thing, because we've got extended family. We've got hundreds of people, cousins, second cousins, and they're all over they're all over the place. They're in the mountains, they're in various cities, etc. So we came over and met everybody and had lots of cake because that's what they do. Um, and one afternoon or one lunchtime, we decided we'd go down to Petra Romeo. Now that is the birthplace of Aphrodite, supposedly. Okay, if you go to Petra Romeo, you will see very little in terms of what you would think would be um, a World Heritage site with amazing views and everything else. Um, what there are three rocks: one big rock, two small rocks. Okay, that's Aphrodite's rock. That's what it is. Now, what happened is that the legend was that Aphrodite or Afro means from the foam. Now, if you look at the Botticelli picture, you'll see the Botticelli picture where she's coming out of the sea on a conch shell. That possibly is a way to explain what from the foam is. The actual story is that the guys, the two gods, if you like, he cut off his genitals and they went into the sea, and that's where the foam came from, and that's where the birth of Aphrodite came from. Right. So how does that figure for me from that point of view? Well, look, I was skeptical, to say the least, about this legend and how it all came about. So we went to the restaurant, and there is a restaurant that overlooks the rocks. And in the restaurant, there was different books and different, shall we say, figurines of Aphrodite, tourist trap, that sort of thing. But what I did was, as I was sitting there having the dinner, I saw something on the wall which is like an epiphany moment, And from that perspective, I thought, wow, that's really unusual because what it was, and usually when you see pictures of Aphrodite, and particularly around Petra Romeo, you never see it from the air. You only ever see it from the ground, from that perspective. This actually was a poster that was taken from the air. And when you look at this poster, you can see the figure of a woman underneath the water.
Oh.
And that was my inspiration. So I've been trying, and I'll be honest, whether that was something that was planted or whatever, I don't know. But I've tried to find this poster all in many different ways. I've been to the Greek tourist office, the Cyprus tourist office. I've been to various places where they might produce a poster, and they think I'm completely nuts because they think, what do you mean poster for taking them from the air? And I'm saying, what, you've got a tourist board poster that was taken from the air? And he says, no, we've never done it. And I thought, oh, I don't believe this. So anyway, I went back to the restaurant and I said, can I buy the poster? He said, what poster? And I thought, this is getting ridiculous. Anyway, so I thought, well, I thought, right, there's the basis of a story here. So I thought, well, what should I do? I can't write this now because as I say, we weren't living in Cyprus. If you're going to write something, you need background, you need information about what the country's like, the climate, the food, the culture, everything like from that perspective to make the story realistic. And then you can put all your imagination into it and all the rest of it. But I couldn't write the actual story until I moved here. And when I moved here, one of the first things I did was write a screenplay. So I wrote the screenplay for the actual, get it out of my system. I just wanted to get it out of my system, and I wrote the screenplay. And then I showed it to a couple of people, and they said, "Why don't you turn it into a book?" So I thought, "Oh, well, yeah, okay, I'll try that." When in many ways, Liz, if you write the screenplay first of all, I know people think, "Oh, I'll write the book and then I'll write the screenplay." If you write the screenplay, all you're then doing for a book is padding it. Do you see what I mean? So you've written all the action, right? And you've written all the dialogue as well. So what you then do is pad it from a point of view of the scenery, etc., the nice green leaves and all the rest of it. But your director wouldn't give a toss about that. All he would say is action, and this is where I want you to walk to. This is where I want you to sit. This is where I want you to swim, and that sort of thing. When you're writing the book, you have to be descriptive because you want people to imagine what you're actually writing is something that they can view. Now, I can only write in pictures. That means if I can't see it, I can't write it. So I write in pictures as the same way as I do with advertising. What happened was I wrote the screenplay, did the book, and I did the book for Nikki, one book, printed it, and gave it to her for Christmas. So she then read it, gave it to a couple of other people, and they said, "Why don't you try and get it published?" So I said, "Well, all right, I'll just try and find a publisher." So I sent a synopsis I rang this publisher and said, "Are you looking for any new material?" And he said, "Well, what have you got?" And I said, "I've got a story about Aphrodite." So he said, "Well, send me the synopsis." So I sent him the synopsis, and he said, "Have you got this as a manuscript?" I said, "Yeah, I've got a manuscript." He said, "Well, can you send me the manuscript?" I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll send you the manuscript." So I sent him the manuscript, and he then called me up and said, "Can you come up and see me on Monday? And this is in Nicosia." And I said, "Yeah, okay." So I come up and see him in Monday, and we signed a contract that afternoon to produce 5,000 books in English and 5,000 books in Greek. Because he loved the story so much. And then we went into a publicity drive, like the local papers, local, all kinds of different magazines and things like that. The Cyprus Airways or one of the other people did an article on it, and it went on the plane and everything. Anyway, I got contacted by a chap from England who said, I'd be really interested in making a movie of your screenplay. So I said, yeah, oh, girl, wonderful, this sort of thing. And this is what I mean about being in the right place at the right time. So all this was going brilliantly. We had Gillian Anderson signed up. We had Peter Andre, who is a celebrity in England, but he's Greek Cypriot as well, background. And then we had a few other famous actors and things like that. They're all going swimmingly. And then the financial disaster comes along in Greece, bang, everything goes out the window, and it then eventually comes to Cyprus, and that was the end of that. So I had my publisher go bust. The film company said, we don't have any money. Everything went out the window. So it's all a case of if you are in the right place at the right time with the right people, things happen. But otherwise, you just fall foul of circumstances.
Yeah, and it goes with your tea as well, Myron, because you said never give up, right? Be in the right place at the right time for the opportunities. Maybe your movie will still come out. It was just not the right timing.
I,
I'm a firm believer in that. Sometimes we put on pause for a reason.
No, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to think. I was just going to say, there's so many people that have said to me, this would make an outstanding movie, and of course now I've got the other two books as well, which would mean it would be a trilogy effectively.
Yeah.
So, from that perspective, if there is anybody listening, like a director or somebody like that, who would be interested in having the script to look at, they can contact you, Liz, if they want to. But I've tried everything. I've tried all of the different ways to try and make this happen. When I've been to Cyprus Tourist Board, I've had film companies in Cyprus say to me, this is a great story, love to do it, but you need funding to do it,
Yes.
and that's
That good old funding, right? It always comes down to the funding.
if you haven't got the funding, forget it. It's not going to happen. If you don't have finance behind you, no matter what, and there are some absolutely rubbish films that get through on network, like get through on Netflix and things like that. And I think, Jesus Christ, my bloody film is so much better than this. And yet somehow it gets produced, and you think,
I do the same thing. I shake my head and I'm just like, how did this get to become a movie, or how did this get on Netflix? When there could be so much educational stuff out there that we could get a good storyline.
uh, even if it's not Netflix, if it's even some of the ones that, I mean, I saw the second Gladiator film. I thought they spent millions on this, and why did they bother? Because you can't beat Gladiator in the first instance. Why make a number two? It didn't make sense to me to make a number two. Leave it. If it's not broken, don't break it.
Don't break it. And they do that with a lot of films, right, Myron? And a lot of books as well. When your storyline it's good, don't keep breaking it down till it's no good.
No, that's right. I mean, from a writer's perspective, you've got to be dedicated. You've got to realize you've got to sacrifice a lot. And I do mean I've sacrificed a lot, because I can't write unless I'm on my own in a room with no distractions. I don't put music on. I only have a light, and I'll sit by the laptop and type away. But I've sacrificed so much with regard to the family and things like that, time that I should spend with a family. And, that's what my big regret, that I thought that was my writing was more important than my family, which is, not, no way can you compare the two. But you get into a situation where you become passionate about what you want to do. but you realize that what's more valuable at the end of the day is the people around you. Um,
And I'm hearing that a lot, Myron. You know, the titles are nice, the words are nice, and meeting all these incredible people. But at the end of the day, what did you sacrifice to get to where you are, right?
it's what you think is more valuable at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
it's if you're inspired to do something, then good luck to you. But uh, and the only advice I would give to prospective writers is if you're going to do it, you're you're going to have to be very selfish because you can't do it with unless you've got real support behind you. Your family is right behind you. Generally, that's not what a writer finds. They find that they have to be on their own, and that is a big sacrifice, Liz. It really is.
Yeah. Myron, if you could give me 3 words to describe your storytelling, the history of your
Um,
whole storytelling, what would you give me?
3 words to
Th-
describe my
Three
storytelling.
words.
Okay. Imaginative, creative, and compelling.
Why those 3 words?
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, and those are your words, so why did you give me those 3 words? I can't tell you what your tea is. I can't tell you what your storytelling is. You gotta tell me. You gotta give me a little bit. Am I right? I don't know. Are you?
No, I think you've got to be passionate about writing if you're going to be passionate as well about your idea. If you realize that yes, that's worthwhile, or you remember writing requires time, so you have to sort of be in a situation where you have to compensate if you are going to be writing a book. All right, a book doesn't take a week to write, it will take a year to write possibly. Or if you're in a situation like I am, where I have time on my hands because of the dialysis, sitting there for 4 hours or whatever. I want to be able to do something. So, you think about doing something like that. If you've got spare time and you want to be passionate about your writing, then do it. But be prepared. You're not going to be a J.K. Rowling. It's not going to happen. And also you need somebody behind you. So you need a publisher. Um, Self-publishing is all right, but how many self-publishers go on to make a fortune? If you're going to do it for writing just to become rich, you're living a dream world. And
Right? You better wake up.
yeah, unless you're with the big five and
Yeah.
you've got the backing of the big five with their huge advertising budgets, and they will promote your book all over the world and things like that, and they've got offices and everything else, Penguin and all of those. They have the ability to be able to put you in front of the screen, and they have the ability for you to be put in front of an audience.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're doing it on your own without any backup, so to speak, you're going to be disappointed. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm not being funny. I've got books. If you look at my name on Google, I'm all over the place. I've got books in Australia. I've got books in India. I've got books in Hong Kong. But if they're not selling
That's
because
right.
you're not in a bookshop or you're not being advertised, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. See, if I had made the film and the film had gone onto the screen, for example, the books would have followed because people would have bought the book following the film. It's like last night the Da Vinci Code was on the television, and people have now gone to the places where the Da Vinci Code was filmed. Now that in that respect, if Cyprus, which is a small little island in the Mediterranean, was a focal point because of the film that was made about it, you'd get thousands coming here. and you get thousands going to Aphrodite's Rock because they want to see what the secret is that I discovered. I mean, I can't believe, Liz, this is the thing that freaks me out. That's been there 5,000 years or thereabouts. Am I the only one that's ever seen it? Am I the only one that's, okay, I didn't climb up the rock. I just got a guy who was very kind to me, gave me some slides, and also I saw the poster and the slides that
Did
I've
you
got.
ever get that poster, Myron?
Yeah, I was at a book place, the book sales thing, and this guy is a very famous air photographer, Denny Rowland, his name is. And I said to him, Denny, have you got any pictures of Aphrodite's Rock from the air? And he said, yeah, I've got thousands of them. And I said, well, can I have a look? And I went through, I literally spent one afternoon going through every picture that he sent of Aphrodite's Rock. And there were two that I found which actually has the image on it. And if you go to YouTube, another advertising plug for me, but if you go to YouTube, you will find there is a video of the actual image in the water.
Oh, wow.
So, there is a realistic story behind this. And the number of people I've tried to convince from Cyprus Tourist Board, I did actually have a letter from the president of Cyprus, and I had letters from the Cyprus Tourist Board when I was looking at making a film in the first instance, and they were all for it. They loved the idea, and all that sort of thing. But then when the money ran out, but everything ran out.
Well, we got to get some listeners that are checking out and they want to make this movie so we can get the movie out, so we can get the books out, and we can get the ripple effect going.
Right.
And
All the books are on Amazon. Everything, if you look to look my name up, they're all on Amazon. From that point of view. And there are three books. There's the book, the first one, Mistress of the Rock. The second one is Skylar or Sela, whichever you want to pronounce it, which is the Revenge, and the other one is uh, oh God, I've forgotten. Judy's Return. Oh, Amiga. Alpha and Omega. That's it. Yeah. Judy's Return, Alpha and Omega. That's it. Those are the three.
yeah, because I was going to just say I got them here. And you're talking about everything that's in my little notebook here. Well, nobody can see because of the green screen, but I got a notebook here. I got notes, I got questions and all that good stuff. But Myron, what was the biggest thing in your life that really got you to look at your writing and say, this is time for a change?
Oh, moving to Cyprus, I think. From a book perspective, moving to Cyprus. From the advertising perspective, being able to pass the copy test, because having had the opportunity to do that, and basically break the mold, because everybody had tried it before and they were saying, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I said, well, I'll have a go, it doesn't make any difference. I'll have a go. And passing that particular copy test, but the copy test was only one element. I had to rewrite Guinness commercials. I had to rewrite Kit Kat commercials. I had to rewrite various Kellogg's commercials. And also develop a strategy around how you would advertise that particular product, for example. Let me give you an idea of what advertising is like. There are two mints, mints like peppermint and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Mints in England that are very famous. One is Trebor, okay, a Trebor mint, and the other one is Polo, okay. Who do you think is, and I'll give you the reason why. Who do you think sells more, Trebor or Polo?
Polo.
Polo. Do you know why? Because it's got
Why?
a hole in it. Polo, the advertising ad for the advertising is very simple. Polo, the mint with the hole.
The
right?
mint with the hole.
You're buying a mint which has got a hole in it, but if you buy a tree bore, it doesn't have a hole in it. So what is more valuable? The one that doesn't have a hole in it, because you're getting more value for it. You're getting more mint. But the advertising strategy of Polo is it's a mint with a hole. And that makes the whole difference, excuse the expression, but that makes the complete difference between the two products. Now, no one else can come up with that because it's the only one that actually has a hole and everybody remembers it.
Well, you keep it simple and it's easy to get it.
Yeah, exactly. And
Like don't
I'll
complicate it. Keep it
give
simple. Like
you another example. Kit Kat, which is the biggest selling chocolate bar in the UK, okay? And I think it sells around the world as well. They couldn't think of a phrase or a strap line for Kit Kat. So these guys were at it for weeks trying to think of a strap line. And they were just sitting there, and one of them was having a cup of tea, and he said, let's have a break. And that was it. Have a break, have a Kit Kat. That's the whole strategy in one line. That's what advertising is.
it's simple, right? Keep it simple.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
stop making it so complicated. Just keep it simple.
Simple, absolutely. Keep it simple, but keep it memorable so that when people think of a product, they actually remember the phrase that goes with it, and that is the essence of copywriting. Because if you can do something like that, you can build a whole campaign around it. Once you build your campaign, you build everything into it, the marketing and everything else that goes with it. But the key thing is getting something that's memorable. That's what advertising is all about.
I'm learning so much because I didn't know that Kit Kat was the biggest one in the UK.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna call my uncle later and I'm gonna be like, hey uncle.
It sells more chocolate bars than anything else.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But the second one is Mars. Mars is the next one along.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know because I'm in Canada and Kit Kat, those are two of my favorite chocolate bars is Kit Kat and Mars.
Well, that gives you an idea as what it is, you know? That's
Yeah.
what the essence of copywriting is. You've got to make something memorable.
So if you could leave a memorable message with all the listeners today, what would it be, Myron?
If you're determined and you want to make your story come to life, be prepared to be disappointed.
I like it. You keep it plain and simple and to the heart, and that's what I like.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Myron, I really want to thank you for sitting and having tea with me today. And never give up is a good, strong cup of tea to give to everyone out there and to remind everybody, that we got to make sacrifices in life if we want those big dreams. So I'm just going to do a closing summary and then we're going to wrap it up for your tea time. So as we close today's cup, Myron reminds us that creativity is not just about invention. It's about remembering who we are through the stories we tell. His humor, heart, and historical wisdom leaves a mark that lingers long after the final sip. Thank you, Myron, for taking us on a journey through laughter, myths, and the timeless powers of words. And I will see everybody on Tuesday, Thursday, same place, same time, and we'll do it all over again, but we'll on StreamYard unless we have to come back on Zoom. But I kind of enjoyed you taking me on this journey today, Myron, and making me getting uncomfortable and trying new things again. So thank you for that, Myron.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was a pleasure talking to you, Liz.
I'm just gonna see if we can